Welcome to this episode of Sunny Silver Linings. Man, am I excited for this guest. Matt, the guy, he should just be the face of the channel today. Matt, for those who don't know, is Vice President of Business Development at Kaseya, IT Complete, as well as ID Agent. And before we get too deep into it, I got to tell one of my favorite stories about Matt. Is we were at an industry event and Matt gets up on stage and asks how many people are using his product. And I'd say 3/4 of the hands in the room went up. And I thought to myself, that guy should just drop the microphone right there and walk out. Boom, job done. Man, Matt, it is great to have you. And as always, we got our host, the CEO and founder of IT by Design, Mr. Sunny Kala.
Thank you, Todd. And Matt, welcome to our podcast. And thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolutely. I'm really excited. And yeah, Todd, that was one of the most fun moments I've had in the channel at that event. And I just wish I had recorded it while I was doing it.
Yeah. Matt, thank you so much for joining us today. My question to you today is, what MSP owners needs to focus on today from security point of view that they are ready, especially in the new norm, and especially in the world that changed overnight. So what is your advice to our MSP partners?
Sure. Yeah. So obviously a lot's changed with COVID-19 and all the shift to remote work. So, and also MSPs got stamped with, they are an essential worker, right? Essential employee. And so what we're starting to see is MSPs are really now becoming more of an authority because that shift to remote, so many companies were not ready for that, and they had and really depended on their MSPs. That's why you saw tickets for MSPs skyrocketing during that first part of COVID. But what we're also finding is that security is now, it was always a concern and it should have been one of the number one concerns, but now companies are starting to realize how at risk they potentially are because of all of the Internet of Things that their employees could be connected to and their personal computers that they're connecting to. And so what we're really talking to our MSPs is shifting to a security first mentality and, getting in front of this stuff. And it's establishing this idea that we call it zero trust. It's the idea that everybody's been compromised and you have to assume that, and you have to build a security stack around that. So that's really where we've seen MSPs starting to have those conversations. And it's really interesting, in the hacking community, how nimble these organizations are, and they are organizations. It's not just a kid in his basement. They are run like a real organization, and you see it because of how quickly they can shift the way they do business. And there was a report that was put out which said 80% of malicious activity, I think right at like 2 weeks after COVID hit, shifted to COVID-related phishing emails, whether it's workplace policies. Like, think how easy it is to fall for a workplace policy email right now because, hey, we were going to go back into the office, but because of a spike, now we're shifting back. We have to put out a policy change. So it's really, they're just really smart in how they're doing that. And so that's really where we've seen that focus change. And the MSPs are now really able to start having those conversations around security. And a lot of times they were not able to get the attention of the president and CEOs of those small businesses.
Yeah, this is the right timing. We talk about being MSSP first, right? So MSP offerings that you have, that is important. But what's the most important thing right now is leading with security and being MSSP first. So in terms of all the changes that happened overnight, mm-hmm. and in terms of hackers, especially focusing on MSPs because they have one entry and then they can enter a lot more networks, MSPs and customers. So is there anything that you're seeing in the industry that is changing? We know that starting last year, there were so many attacks on MSPs, and anything changed during COVID?
Well, yeah, and like you said, it's that one-to-many concept, right? And that's, it's nothing completely new that MSPs are under attack, though the velocity of it's much higher. And now you're seeing, nation states that have come out, China and things like that, where they were there's been reports about them specifically targeting MSPs. And it's also not just the MSPs. It's the one-to-many concept works for professional services. It's like a law firm or a finance company or accounting company. That's the same concept. And so I encourage MSPs to have that conversation with, particularly for those organizations, because you think about hitting one law firm, you then hit 100 to 300 clients potentially through that. So I think the biggest shift we've seen at ID Agent, we launched a product called Passly, which is for multi-factor authentication, single sign-on password management. That's really been the biggest shift in the conversation that we've seen with MSPs and with their customers. So, it's the old, making sure you're eating the dog food, right? You sell two-factor authentication. Have you actually implemented it at your own MSP? So unfortunately, that's not always the case, right? And so people have been so adverse to some of those things prior, and now they seem to be open to those conversations because they definitely understand how much more at risk they are in this remote environment. And we've seen some of the biggest jumps in conversations around multi-factor authentication. And I think it's important to note, multi-factor authentication is not perfect. It's not foolproof, but you have to create layers to make it harder for hackers. I think back to just the concept of, if you have an alarm system in your house and you put your sign up out front saying you have an alarm system, chances are they're going to pass by you and go to somebody else's house. So you have to put those things in place to make it harder and make them move on, because hackers are absolutely looking for the easiest points of entry.
Yeah, and they're very organized, to your point, and so we have to move always faster than hackers. And this is one area where we got to be, like a low effort, high impact, multi-factor authentication from Office 365 to your RMM tools, especially now. A lot of our employees, a lot of our MSP partners' employees, they're working from home, and it is important to make sure that you have at least all the bases covered, especially with the world-class tools. And yeah, so another piece that I want to talk about is talent. In terms of a lot of layoffs out there and a lot of industries where they had those cybersecurity experts, and those people probably have lost jobs. Have you seen anything changing? I know cybersecurity talent is always a struggle, and we all struggle with finding good talent, especially with those skills. Do you see any change with all these layoffs and unemployment rate going up?
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge opportunity for MSPs to get cybersecurity talent, because prior, I mean, and I'm not an expert in this, but prior, that it was like impossible. I mean, the unemployment in, I think I heard a stat like something about like the unemployment in cybersecurity is like negative something, but I don't know how that's possible. But basically, it just didn't exist, right? Because there was just so much demand and people willing to pay really premium pricing. So one, I can't say that there's not the premium price, cost out there, but of course, talent that was already in the MSP pool is certainly now becoming available, because unfortunately there are layoffs and those things are happening. And I would encourage MSPs to look at things like LinkedIn, for example. If you knew somebody was a talented person at a different MSP, make sure you're following them on LinkedIn, because then a lot of times you get alerted to a career change or something that might tip you off that they're looking for a job. So there's that opportunity. And then internal IT, right? Same thing. There's been some really great internal IT that is now being laid off. And one really cool thing about somebody that's coming from the internal side is they have that insider knowledge of how, MSPs are often looking to do co-managed contracts as well. I think that's a huge, avenue right now. And so that you have a kind of an insider track, because you now can understand this person knows how to talk to an internal IT person. So that doesn't sound like, hey, this MSP is trying to take my job. No, they're trying to come in and work with you and give you, tools that you might not have access to. So I think there's lots of opportunity really from within the MSP pool, but certainly from the internal side of things as well.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. They can give you that other perspective, other side of the coin, and that's easy then for you to work in that co-managed IT environment. So you made a great point in terms of talent availability, while it's a struggle, and it's always going to be a struggle because demand is very, very high. But this is the best time for you to invest in talent, and if you're hiring from outside. Another thing, we had a call with Amy from CompTIA the other day, and she was talking about learning and development, and they have a great program to train people. So while you are looking for these experts from outside, this is a great opportunity for MSPs to cultivate their internal tech talent with some special courses, special trainings in terms of security, because this is the need of the hour, and this will be the need of the future as well. And this is one area where we always encourage our partners, and we are doing it internally, but we are encouraging our partners to invest in this area because this is going to help you thrive in a tough market. Okay, so last piece. I know you always talk about proof that now small businesses are a lot more open to have security related conversations, that how can they make this distributed workforce environment secure. So in general, small business owners are open to have those conversations, a lot more open than ever before. Mm-hmm. But your tool makes it easy for MSP owners to have those conversations because now they have business intelligence with them. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, and one key part about that is MSPs are often techie, and they can get really technical, and a lot of times you lose these small businesses because they don't understand what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. And that's the beauty of some of the reports that ID Agent has, and other security companies, is that it cuts through a lot of that because it's right there on the paper and they understand it. And I say this all the time. I mean, you guys have heard me talk, but I'm not a security, I don't consider myself a security expert per se, but I know how to talk about security on a level that somebody can understand. And so I have to be able to understand it because I'm your end customer, basically, is how I put it. So when I'm presenting, I really try to present in a way that they should be talking to their end customer. But really, we've got a couple different reports, but what we have is the dark web report. So it shows the compromised credentials and then the phishing simulation. So between those two things, you're showing something that's actually occurred. Because before you're having conversations and you're talking about, hey, this could occur, and this could occur, and that's why you need to do these things. But you're talking in some obscure things that could happen. At least that's obscure in their head. Versus when you actually show them, hey, Dawn from accounting is her username and password is right here. Bob from HR this is his credentials. There's something much more visceral about that experience. And same with the phishing simulations. You see people failing tests and giving up credentials in fake emails, and you're able to walk them through that. And I actually have an example of an MSP. They had a break-fix customer of 10 years. They convinced him, they said, can we please do a phishing simulation? We have to have a baseline understanding of where your company is. They had 25 employees. 92% of them clicked on the email, which is bad. But usually the click by itself doesn't set off everything. What then they did, though, is 54% of them submitted their credentials on a fake email. So he went back into the meeting with that report plus the dark web report and walked away with a 3-year contract worth over $280,000. And so that's
an awesome story.
Yeah, and it's not like I'm saying something that happens every time. Yeah. But it empowers MSPs, and that's really that's my talk track. All I'm trying to do is empower MSPs. And the beauty of it is I'm not telling you go into this meeting to sell just ID Agent. I'm telling you sell the whole security stack. But these pieces are the first part of that conversation.
Yeah, and we use your tool with our MSP. As you know, we are serving New York City small businesses here. Yep. And I remember meeting you at one of these conferences. And then, so you did your magic, and it's so simple, very easy to use. And yeah, so you did your magic, and you're like, Sunny, do you use these 3 passwords? And I'm like, yes. How do you know? And I came back, and I had the first thing I did was had my conversation with my CTO. And next week, we're like, this is a great tool, simple to use. and it empowers you to have those meaningful conversations with your potential customers. And it's like, it's an amazing way of doing your network assessments, especially understanding the security posture from the dark web perspective, and something that is like must to have in your toolbox.
Absolutely. And before we were acquired by Kaseya, I can tell you every security vendor wanted to do webinars with us because our tool set up their tool. And that's the beauty of it, right? It helps sell that stack.
Yeah. So thank you so much for joining us today. And Todd, back to you now.
Matt, it's obviously security is a huge play today. And if there's a partner out there or a prospect out there or an MSP, they're like, man, I need to get on that wagon. So what's the best way to get a hold of you or a member of your team?
Just through our website, idagent.com. And then if you want to directly set up a demo, you can do /partners. But yeah, that's the easiest, right on our website.
All right. Thank you, Matt. Sonny, why don't you wrap us up today?
Thank you so much, Matt, for sharing your experience, your wisdom, and what you are doing for the channel is so much valuable. It's just, security is one area where we all need to stay focused, and you are doing some great work in the channel. So thank you for adding value to our partners.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Sonny. And to the viewers, thank you for taking the time to watch this episode. We hope you took away some nuggets. There certainly was a lot of good stuff there from Matt. He's an expert. And we hope you take the time to, give us a like, a subscribe, a share, and we'll see you in the next episode.